Well, good morning, everyone. I just want to welcome you to our weekly call. In 28 minutes or less, we are going to give you the world. We're going to give you the updates of what's going on specific to business and what is going on through the eyes of our advocacy rep, Mr. Jeff Gibson. We'll be covering that in just a minute. I'm Bobby Spiegel. I'm President and CEO for the Corona Chamber of Commerce, and it is indeed a pleasure to host today as our chairman of the board, Kim Maybon, has other appointments that she's taking care of. Today's sponsorship is, we're so glad to have Awards and Specialties as our sponsor, and they have been a member with us for years, and they are an award and recognition store that sells your basic sports trophies to complete custom awards for any occasion. They're very creative, they're very supportive of your ideas. This includes medals, ribbons, lapel pins, corporate plaques, and more. They also specialize in custom framing and matting and offer promotional items in addition to all the other awards. Thank you, Awards and Specialties, for sponsoring this meeting today. You'll notice that for those that may be new, we do ask you to put things in the chat box. And as far as the chat, we do want to make sure that if you have a question, please go ahead and post it into the chat. I'm going to give you just a brief review as we will be turning things over to Jeff in just a couple of minutes, but just some things that are going on. And the first slide that we're going to show is about our N95 masks. And the N95 masks are available now through a partnership that we have with the County of Riverside. These are similar masks like this. They're not that exact yellow band on it. The N95s require you to teach people to properly fit them. We would give these masks to you for free, but we ask you, number one, do not resell them. And number two, be sure and give instructions if you're using the N95. We do also have the other masks that are one-time use. They don't require the special fittings or anything like that, and they're available through the chamber as well. The next slide that we have is about our upcoming Circle City Social. That is our mixer. I want to clarify, there was some confusion. This does not mean that we're meeting at the Circle City Center. What this means is that we're the Circle City and we're having a nice in-person social. It's a networking opportunity, and this will be at the original Congrejo Nice. That is in the Kohl's shopping center and off of Hidden Valley. So that will be from 5 to 7, and it is only $10 for members and $20 for prospective members or non-members. Space is limited. If you want to get an exhibitor table, please connect with Desiree at mychamber.org, or you can register on the bit.ly at CCS August 11th. The next slide that we have is the Corona Night with the Angels, and that's going to be a great time that we're going to have. That's coming up. Listen, tickets are only available for another week, and we definitely want you to purchase those. And Anthony's put the bit.ly in the chat box there. Great opportunity. As you go to pull down, as you go to register, it will ask you which organization that you want to help support. We are offering some of our nonprofits that had signed up for it to be able to generate some revenue from these ticket sales. Also, a special gift that they're giving away at the Angel Night game is an Otani pillow giveaway, and that is for the first 14,000 fans that are in attendance. So get there early. The game starts at 6:30-ish. You should arrive. Gates open at 5 p.m. So plan to get your tickets before August 16th. And we look forward to seeing you all there. Our Good Morning Corona events are coming up rapidly, and we've got a lot of different ones there. You'll see on the slide there, August 20th, September 10th, October 15th, and November 12th. And I'm just going to touch briefly on each one. The August 20th is our Executive Leadership Roundtable. That group will be doing their graduation that day, a great opportunity for you to meet some incredible leaders, as well to hear what they actually did for their community project. some tremendous networking that's going to go on that day, and that will be on Friday, August 20th. The next one is set for Friday, September 10th. We moved it up a full week, and the reason for that is we want to honor Corona Police and Corona Fire, and they have selected their police officer and firefighter of the year. We will be doing the public acknowledgement for them. They've already acknowledged them in their own departments, but we want to thank them. And then we also want to commemorate 9/11/2001, as this is the 20th year. On October 15th, we have our congressional update from Congressman Ken Calvert, and he's always a big draw. We'd love to have you all be there, and that will be on October 15th. And then Friday, November 12th, we will be recognizing all veterans. And this is where we could definitely use some help from all of you on the call, is if you would like to sponsor or be involved in this process, we invite anyone that has served our military as a guest that day. A free meal, and it's like what I say every year for the last 20 plus years, we should be doing it every day, giving these veterans a free meal and a thank you and a hug and saying how much we appreciate them. On September 30th, it's a Thursday, the Riverside County Women's Leadership Conference returns to Corona. This is the 10th annual, and I am so proud and excited. My wife was the founder of this program. She really has a vision for uplifting women into various different positions for the work. Great information. She will be given an inspirational message on grit. And then we want to announce all the other speakers real quick. Kathy Armstrong, Brazilda Beck, Diane Callahan, Emily Filipino, Robbie Mater, Sonja Prince, Arby Robinson, Dr. Aaliyah Rodriguez, Dr. Cassandra Sanders Hawley, and Jan Steiner. There will also be a physician panel, and we're very excited that they will be talking on various issues that every attendee will be interested in. We do have sponsorship opportunities available. Please log on to the mychamber.org/WLC to learn more. And as part of our advocacy outreach, this is one of our biggest things that we have going right now with our chambers, to inform you every single week of what is going on. And Jeff Gibson has been a great advocate for us, but one of the parts that we want you to do is be a member. And so if you're not currently a member, or you know businesses that you do business with that are not members, please connect us so we can get Robert to connect with them. Robert Yanez is our membership specialist, and you can reach him at robert@mychamber.org. And now I would like to just acknowledge some of the elected officials that are on the call today. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to state that our Vice Mayor for the city of Corona, Wes Speak, is on the call. We have former council member Yolanda Carrillo, former council member and former mayor and the current Citizen of the Year, Jason Scott, is on the call. As well, we have our chair of our legislative outreach, Mr. Jeff Miller. Jeff is a former state assembly member for the region here. He's also a former mayor of the city of Corona, former council member. Most importantly, in my eyes, though, he's been a successful businessman for over 45 years. That alone is just a great attribute to have those types of people on our calls. So with that, I'm going to go ahead now and introduce our keynote speaker that's going to give us in the next 20 minutes a complete update of all the bills and what's going on. He's going to single out a couple of things. It'll be Jeff Gibson. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Jeff for almost a dozen years now. And the man is a visionary. He takes things from a 50,000 foot level and kind of dissects it down. He puts it into simple language and understanding for people like me to better understand what is going on. How does it impact your business? What it does to your employees, what it does for the future of your operation. And we're just very fortunate to have this kind of a caliber of an individual that can help us and guide us through the legislative platform. So at this time, please welcome Mr. Jeff Gibson.
Good morning, everybody. So Anthony, if we could put up the first, there we go. So you've heard a lot of talk, a huge amount of talk and back and forth on the infrastructure bills that are currently working their way through. On the Senate side, the House has approved the $3.5 trillion, what is being presented as a version of the infrastructure bill. But as we know, since we're in the 511th day of trying to flatten the curve, that sometimes what you hear in politics and sometimes what you actually see in print are two different things. And so there's supposed to be two versions of the bill, a $3.5 trillion. And for perspective, in 2017, $3.5 trillion was what we spent as a country on the national government. So this is a very big bill by anybody's standards. And it was going to be focusing on human infrastructure. So universal daycare and a number of different issues, but being very light on building roads, bridges, and airports, which most of us would consider to be actual infrastructure. That started a debate. That bill started a debate when it was introduced by Bernie Sanders and a few other members of the House and the Senate. And thus came the White House negotiated bipartisan infrastructure bill, which passed its first test with a wide bipartisan majority of 62 to 37. And that included $1.2 trillion. So you've probably heard, if you've been watching the news at all, about a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. And so but as I said before, given this is the 511th day to flatten the curve, what we're looking at here is a game, it's a shell game. So both bills, $4.7 trillion worth of spending, both bills are going to pass Congress. Only one will be voted on, the $1.2 trillion infrastructure package. The $3.5 trillion infrastructure package is going to go through a process called reconciliation. Reconciliation was designed to reconcile a bill that the House passed and a bill that the Senate passed. In recent years, what reconciliation means is that the Senate sends a letter saying, we are confident that this bill would pass to the House, and the House sends a letter saying basically the same thing, and then it goes into reconciliation, in which case the Reconciliation Committee sends a letter to both houses saying, you're going to love it. We don't even need to vote on it, and it becomes law. And so the $3.5 trillion package is going to be referred to reconciliation. So when you hear that, that means that the bill will be going through a process that is designed for legislation that has gone through hearings, gone through vetting, gone through all these things, but it hasn't gone through any of those things. So the $3.5 trillion, which focuses on, and it's a new phrase outside the Beltway called human capital. That's spending on human beings that are almost always receiving entitlements already, or they qualify for entitlements. And so in a previous generation, this would have been an entitlement bill, but because everyone is interested in infrastructure, it's now called human infrastructure. So we can have a debate on whether or not we want to have a lot of human infrastructure per se, but that's the difference. The $1.2 trillion bill package is going to be voted on in the Senate probably in September. It's just leaking into print right now. Sunday was the day that it leaked into print. It's 2,701 pages. And of that $1.2 trillion, there's actually $550 billion of new spending. So the promise out there is that we're going to pass $4.7 trillion of of infrastructure packages, which you and I and others would be tempted to say, well, 4.7 trillion, that basically rebuilds every road, every bridge, every airport, every water system, everything brand new. And if it did that, okay, we can have a debate on whether or not we could afford it. But in reality, what's happening here is that of all of those, both of those packages, there's only 550 billion in brand new spending. And of that, about 450 to 500 billion actually on things that we would be considering infrastructure. And so, Anthony, if you go to the next slide, and I could explain this to you pretty straightforward. So the headline that you're going to see is that there's about 109 billion available for roads, bridges, and major projects. That is usually the funding stream that that projects like the 91 freeway, of what we spend our time to talk about, that's something that we understand. So again, 4.7 trillion in spending, 109 billion of it goes to actually new roads. 73 billion goes for power grid and grid regulation. So of that, about half is for the construction of new power grids. So to give you an idea, California is facing about $100 billion shortfall in building out its power grid, and we don't have enough generation during summer months, especially, to keep everyone with the amount of power they need. Hence the rolling brownouts and blackouts in Northern California currently. But so we're going to get about $50 billion for new power construction around the country. The advantage when you're looking at those projects, the advantage always goes to states that have those projects ready to go. So it's very likely that California will not compete very well for those funds. So we will compete pretty well for the 109 billion in roads, bridges, and other construction, but we have to hold together as a state. Otherwise, those dollars go all over the place, as we have known in the past. Looking further down, there's 65 billion for broadband. Now, because it's an infrastructure bill, we as reasonable people would think that's new broadband. And there is a portion of it for new broadband, but most of that is going to go towards a project called broadband equity, which is where the federal government is going to regulate internet service providers to make sure that everyone has access to broadband. Again, it's a very laudable goal, but if you're going to have an infrastructure package, have it be built around actually building things as opposed to giving money to regulators to regulate things. So 65 billion for infrastructure, and you could already see that we are not even into the third highest apportionment of money, and we're already into money for regulators as opposed to building new things. The next is passenger and freight rail, which is at 65 billion or 66. And while it says passenger rail, and many of us think of things like the high-speed rail, etc., in reality, a lot of that is going to go into freight, which is perfectly fine and is necessary. But so don't get your hopes up that we're going to be getting a high-speed rail or something like that that's federally funded, because the majority of that is going to be building additional freight infrastructure. Then as we come down, 55 billion for water quality. Again, laudable goal, very good infrastructure project for the most part. Again, a lot of that is going to be going to the EPA to look at things like Waters of the U.S., which if Waters of the U.S. had been in place when we were planning the 91 freeway, it would have been a lot more difficult to actually build the 91 freeway. So we're going to be monitoring that extremely closely. Then you're looking down at 47 billion is for resilience. Resilience are payments into communities that are affected by the infrastructure package and potential bills generally. It is also looking at areas where we can duplicate infrastructure so that we are resilient in the case of an emergency and other issues. So again, it's a very soft infrastructure package. And as you come down here, the last two that I would highlight are 25 billion for airports. And again, that sounds like a very large number, but if you look at the project to expand LAX, that took about $2.5 billion all on its own. So you're looking at 10 major terminals in a country that is several $100 billion behind on the building of infrastructure. And so, and now, and the final piece would be 16 billion for ports and waterways. Again, it's a big top line number, but when you think about to maintain the growth level necessary at the Port of LA, you need to replace the Vincent Thomas Bridge because that's how big these ships are becoming, that they can float under the Vincent Thomas Bridge when fully laden. But because we lack an export infrastructure as big as our import infrastructure, unfortunately, the ship cannot go back underneath. It would actually have to be 50 feet higher than it already is. And if anybody's ever been on the Vincent Thomas Bridge, you know that is a very large bridge. But that alone would be upwards of $4.5 to $5 billion in replacement. So you're getting possibly 4 or 5 major port projects out of that $16 billion. So again, we are tracking this. This is a federal bill. So you're going to want to be speaking to Congressman Calvert, Senator Dianne Feinstein, and Senator Alex Padilla to voice your opinion. We are very interested in getting more infrastructure, but we would like more value for our money, especially if 4.7 trillion is going to be expended, and we're getting about 450 to $500 billion worth of actual infrastructure. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions and go from there.
Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. And while people are hopefully submitting any questions, so typically we put up the slide that we have for our local state of California representatives. Today's talk is about federal. We will email you when we email the recording back out to all of you. We will have the contact information for you for the congressman and the various people that Jeff highlighted in there. So again, we appreciate that. Anthony, are there any questions at this time?
There are no questions at this moment.
No questions at all.
No
Okay.
questions.
So Jeff, go ahead.
I've stunned you into silence.
Well, you either crossed all the T's and dotted the I's, or we're in such dismay over what is going on. I'm not sure which, but we so appreciate you taking the time to do these brief updates every single week. And again, what we did is about a month ago, we wanted to change the formatting to do about a 28-minute or less time frame so each of you can get on with your day. We appreciate you plugging into this call. And this time, Anthony, if you'll just put up the slide of our sponsor, we'll go ahead and thank our sponsor, Awards and Specialties, again, for them to be our sponsor today. They're more than just a trophy shop. They're ready to handle any of your awards, recognition, and promotional needs. Learn more at awardsandspecialties.net. Our next meeting will be next week on August 11th. If you would like to sponsor a future business briefing, please contact the chamber. Kindly register now for the August 11th meeting, and you can do that on the bit.ly there, CCBB AUG 11. And we thank you all for being part of today's call. It's 10:25. We made it in the 28 minutes or less. Have a great day.